Talk Real Estate with Fred Johnson. With over 30 years of professional experience serving Central Oregon, Fred Johnson can help guide you through the Central Oregon real estate landscape. Call in at 541-388-1110. Talk Real Estate with Fred Johnson is brought to you in part by the Central Oregon Association of Realtors, Evergreen Home Loans, Abijay Automated Control Systems, and Duke Warner Realty. The phone number again is 541-388-1110. Now, Talk Real Estate, only on FM News 100.1 and News Talk 1110 KBND.
Hello, Central Oregon. How are you today? My name is Fred Johnson. I'm your host on Talk Real Estate, and I want to thank you very much for being here. You know, we hope to be your resource for relevant information here that affects our local community in Central Oregon, and we're really happy to bring you this show. And thanks again to our sponsors, which you heard the line up there before we got going. You know, we're here, and it's a beautiful summer day. Things are starting to happen along with the weather, the warm weather coming into town. We have a number of issues, and we're really excited here on the show to be able to be lining up making arrangements for some different local people to come and speak to us on a lot of the different issues. Many of you out there, of course, realize that we've got everything from economic development, transportation, affordable housing, urban growth boundary, site location for the Oregon State University, and and how we're going to fund that, whether we're going to do it through systems development charges, gas taxes, or any of that. We definitely live in a dynamic community. We have a number of things that, even in today's newspaper that are showing us that we're going to develop and going to continue to grow. Today in our show, too, one of the things that we're going to do, we have a guest in the show today. Along with the good weather comes the snowbirds that come and live in our community, and they live in our community from a lot of different perspectives. And we thought here at Talk Real Estate that maybe it might be a good idea to bring someone in and give us just a little different perspective as to how our town looks, and that if anybody has any issues or has any questions that they would like to ask of Larry Wilson, our host today. Larry, how are you today? Are you doing all right?
Enjoying another sunny day in beautiful Central Oregon.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you here with us today, and Larry's lived the retirement lifestyle for quite some time here, and he's going to share some perspectives and some insights as to how it's changed in different years, and maybe to some of you that may be looking at retirement here in the not too distant future might be able to either answer some questions or give you some insights as to how you might want to proceed when you go forward with that. But before we get there, let me do a couple of shout outs. First I'd like to shout out to our local graduates. We're going through graduates. We've got everybody from college, high school, middle school, grade school, all the way down to kindergarten that are graduating this week. And all we'd like to share with them is to get out there, dream big, and have the courage to live your dreams, because it's all equal to effort and reward, and you've got a rich and full life out there ahead of you. So congratulations, graduates. Secondly, I'd like to talk about this week, one of our sponsors, Central Oregon Association of Realtors, in conjunction with the National Association of Realtors, is doing their nationwide weekend open house. And you'll see today in the BIN bulletin that there's an insert there to be able to go out and look at some of the open houses that are in our community. They're hosted by real estate agents here in the local area and can answer a number of your questions. And this is, what I like to call it, this is sort of the tour of reality. We have our tour of homes coming up here before long, which has a lot of beautiful homes with all the newest and greatest features that they have. But this week, it's really just an open houses of homes that are actually on sale, that are not tour homes, that are not overly upgraded, but they're fairly representative of our community. So if you have an interest in some of the inventory that might be out there, this is a great weekend to get out there and take a look at that. We've got the weather. The weather's going to be up in the 90s. Everything's really going quite well in that regard. Other than, we've got a little bit of smoke going on because of the prescribed burns all over town. And that, for those of you in the outlying area, we might even do a little special on that coming forward to talk about defensible space, and maybe get somebody in here to talk to us about the importance of having a space around your property, particularly in these dry, warm summer days, that you could defend. A little sad news on the billet today. We lost Buck Norris. Buck Norris was our local buck deer that was actually part of our community for about the last 10 years. This buck had an amazing rack, and was easy to detect because he sort of had this big downturned, it almost looked like a baseball bat that was part of his rack. But everybody around town enjoyed having Buck Norris hang out around town and all that. And one of the funniest things was one of the places that he favored hanging out over on the west side was near the Nosler bullet plant, which also happened to be the facility that manufactured the bullets that took out a number of his contemporaries. And there's also a local group that's putting together a GoFundMe site to potentially put together a bronze statue for Buck Norris. So once again, a sad loss. This next week, we've got another one of those things. We talk an awful lot here on Talk Real Estate about some of the different activities and marketing issues that are bringing tourists to our community. And one of them coming up this next week has been billed for, I'm sorry, I don't know if it's 50 or 75 years, the biggest little show, which is the Sisters Rodeo. And the Sisters Rodeo is a great event. If you haven't been out to catch the Sisters Rodeo, you certainly should. Then there's the parade that's through town. And if you're driving west and you're going to go through Sisters this next week, you just might want to be mindful of that as well, because sometimes the road gets a little bit blocked up. But along with that tourist dollar, we're going to talk with Larry here a little bit about the Snowbirds and what brings them to our community. But you may have noted today in the newspaper that there was an article about a number of hotels that are being built in our community. And this is, what I'm trying to do today is I'm trying to share a number of different issues that are affecting our Bend economy, because so often we just look at it from our perspective in our little neighborhood and we don't understand the full picture. And sometimes to be able to look at our city from a different perspective lends a little bit of light onto how many things are being affected by all of this growth. But basically, it earmarked that there's three major hotels that are coming to the area to add on to obviously what we already have here. There's one out of South Dakota, which is My Place Hotels. They're planning on building a $2.7 million 4-story building down on Bond Street, real near the old Mill District, very, very near where the New Hampton Inn, which many of you may have seen go up, was a 114-unit apartment complex. There's also another one over on Industrial Way, which is right in between the old Mill District and downtown, and that's a 4-story Spring Hill, it's going to be called, which is managed by Marriott. It's going to be 105 units, and it's proposed to be online here in the spring of 2016. And also there's a Springfield-based Inside Motel that's looking at building a 100 to 120 unit motel on the old Bend Bulletin site downtown, right across from Pioneer Park. So it's really quite amazing that the community is rebounding, and that some of these businesses from outside of the area see that there's a financial incentive for them to come into Bend. But what that means to us living here is that we're going to continue to see good recreational activities and good tourist activities coming to our community that are going to support all of the markets and the stores and everything that we enjoy here in the community. And those are the things that are going to also add to the additional growth, because if we get a few million visitors come to visit each year, a small percentage of them are going to decide that Bend's not a bad place to live, and maybe they might want to move here as well. So during this next segment, what we're going to do is we're going to talk with Larry Wilson a little bit about what it's like to live the Snowbird lifestyle. What that looks like, whether it's better to buy a home and have a home here and there, whether it's better to do it with a motorhome or however that may go, how he finds the facilities in our area, and hopefully you might enjoy that. We'd like you to feel free to call in at any time. Our local number here is 541-388-1110. Or you can always contact me directly at my website, which is askfredjohnson.com. And, we could go over it then. I also have Fred at DukeWarner.com. Last week we had a winner for a red carpet car wash, and that was a Mr. Coates that had called in to tell us how Pilot Butte received its name. And somehow or another I lost Mr. Coates on the line. So, Mr. Coates, if you'd like to contact me, either to call me here at the station or send me an email or contact me at my webpage, I'd really appreciate it. and we look forward to getting you that car wash from Red Carpet Car Wash. They've been here in the area since 1971, providing car washes and gas services, and supporting our local community. So after the break, we'll talk to you about being a snowbird.
You're listening to Talk Real Estate with Fred Johnson, brought to you by Abajay Automated Control Systems. Only on FM News 100.1 and 1110 KBND.
Ooh, it's a werewolf in London there. Welcome back. Fred Johnson here at Talk Real Estate. Happy to have you with us today. Today in the office here, we've got a guest with us today, Larry Wilson. He's our resident snowbird today. Larry, how are you doing?
I'm doing just fine and enjoying sunny Central Oregon.
Oh, welcome, Larry. You know, I know that you've been enjoying your snowbird lifestyle, your vagabond lifestyle, whatever you'd like to take it. Is this a lifestyle you'd recommend to others?
Well, after working about 40 years, yes, I'm really enjoying it. My driver's license says continuous traveler on it, and that's exactly what I do.
Well, good for you. Good for you. So how long have you been retired and living this lifestyle?
Well, let's see. I've been in about 2008. I've been traveling around, running up here to Bend, spend the summers up here, and then run down to Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, and spend some time down there when it's sunny and warm.
And so, are you a member of the Good Sam Camp Club?
I am a Good Sam member, and I'm also an Escapee member.
Oh, well, that's good. Do you find that those clubs offer some additional support to people such as yourself that are traveling around a bit?
Well, the discounts are nice, and they usually have great parks and places like that to stay. So I enjoy it. I enjoy it a lot. I've been doing it, like I say, for about the last 7 or 8 years, and I can hope to continue doing it.
Oh, good for you. So you moved to Bend. You were a long-term resident of Bend and moved here in the 70s. And when you get the opportunity to go away to some of these other recreation spots and that, what is it that keeps bringing you back to Bend?
Well, I've grown up in Oregon and enjoyed Bend from, like I say, the late 70s. I've had a couple of businesses here and decided to take a job in Southern California, Central California, for about 13 years. And after that, I'd had enough of that, so I decided to do a little traveling and get back to Bend, Oregon, which I really enjoy due to all the sports activities and what Bend has to offer, which is quite a bit. They're everything for people like me, from adult education in the colleges around here to the activities that you can do, the sporting activities. There's all kinds of things to do here for people of any age.
It really is a great community here for us. And, one of the things that, an awful lot of our listeners are currently homeowners. And, one of the things that we see here an awful lot is we see a lot of homes that sit vacant in the winter months in some of the neighborhoods because there's people that are snowbirds and move back and forth. And, what we find with that is that maybe the percentage of time that they spend north and south goes back and forth. So maybe you could play into that a little bit. Do you spend more time in the north or more time in the south when you're...
Actually, I spend about equal amount of times. I've got a great spot down around the Phoenix area I like to go and stay, and they've got great medical services there, as well as they do have here in Bend with St. Charles. It's a full open heart surgery hospital. We've got a VA clinic here that's brand new, and being a retired disabled veteran, I find that that's very important to me. And I just really enjoy the area. It's the people are wonderful. The climate is what I like. The water's sweet. There's, like I say, there's all kinds of activities for anybody that has any desire to get out, to bike ride, to walk, to the numerous amount of lakes that are around this area. There's just anything and everything to do around Bend, Oregon.
So as you've been an enthusiast here for years and obviously living here for a number of years, sometimes we hear the refrain a little bit locally that, we're going south. The area is not near as livable as it used to be, and the parks are getting overloved. How do you find that, Larry? Do you find that the community is still warm and receptive?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. The road system here is amazing. The people are amazing. I haven't run into one bad attitude since I've been here, and I really enjoy that. I like the people that are in the area and everything that goes along with that.
And that's pretty consistent everywhere you go?
Everywhere I go. Everywhere I go.
Good for you. Good for you. And what about the fishing? I know that's a big part of your traveling here of recent. Is the fishing still pretty good in the area?
Absolutely. There's always the high lakes up on Cascade Drive. There's high lakes, there's low lakes, there's rivers, the Deschutes River here, the Little Deschutes, the Crooked River. If you're a fisherman, there's plenty to do here.
Well, that's great. So maybe you could shed a little light for some of our listeners out there. Now I know that you're currently a fifth wheel person, and in the past you've had a camper and took your fishing boat with you, and then there's obviously people that do motor coaches and carry a pilot car with them. And there's also people that maybe have a house here and a condo there, or a house there and a condo here, whichever way that goes. Maybe you could just lend a little insight from somebody that's actually lived that lifestyle, what that looks like and what you might recommend.
Well, I've done it all, as far as an 8.5-foot self-contained camper up to a 35-foot fifth wheel, a 25-foot Class A motorhome, and there's just plenty of RV spots around the town between Redmond and Bend. It's just about everything that a traveling person could possibly want.
Do you think there's sufficient RV campsites here in the area?
Oh, absolutely. We've got state parks around here, from Lapine to at Billy Chinook, which is a large lake just north of here. The Metolius River, there's Sisters area. All of this is just beautiful area for camping, RVing, and just coming to see the area. You'll see what I'm talking about.
Well, I noted today when I stopped by your RV park here on the south end of town that it was nearly completely full.
Oh, they're absolutely full. They're booked solid through September right now. If you're planning on coming through the area, I would suggest that you call early and reserve a spot just to make sure that there's something here, so you don't have to travel too far to enjoy this beautiful country.
And when you go south, is there the same? Would you recommend the same when you go to the south areas? Or are those campsites in the winter months reasonably full as well?
Yeah, I'd say possibly. The Lapine State Park is a very large park south of here, and you can always find a spot there. But again, it always pays to plan ahead.
I'm to understand that down where you go down in Arizona, that there's actually some parks that you could purchase your pad or purchase your spot, and they have a number of facilities, swimming pools and golf courses and all of that sort of thing. Have you ever encountered any of those properties?
Well, as it turns out, this last year I spent September through December 31st at a place called Valley del Oro in Mesa, Arizona, which is a 5-star resort area that caters to RVs and to park model units. But you can buy your spots down there, and it's a really enjoyable place to be. Although I think in September the devil vacations down there. It's the heat gets a little too much for me. But October, November, and December are absolutely gorgeous down there.
That's where it goes over 100 degrees, and that's what pushes you back north?
Exactly. I start working my way back north usually, at the end of winter down there, and try to stay in that 70 to 80 degree range, and end up back up here in Bend. Like today, it's about 80 degrees up here. It's absolutely sunny and beautiful. Got a nice light breeze going, and I really enjoy it up here.
Well, we're happy to have you here, and it's interesting for you to come and share with our listeners that there's a population of Bend that doesn't make the census, doesn't make the count, that comes in each year and goes back out each year, still comes in, still uses the services and enjoys the services in parks, And it's great to have you here, but it's also great for you to be able to share your story with us. That it's still pleasant, that you find the people pleasant, you find the services sufficient, and that you find that our lakes aren't overfished and the parks still work well.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And one thing I really noticed in this area in the last 10 years is that the road system around here is absolutely fantastic. I mean, the roads aren't crowded. People here are really respectful. It's amazing when you're driving down a road and someone will stop and let you get into traffic.
Looks like it's time for us to take a break, Larry. We'll get back to it a little bit after the break. Thank you so much for tuning in to Talk Real Estate with Fred Johnson. Hello, Central Oregon. Welcome back to Talk Real Estate with Fred Johnson. We're here today on this beautiful summer day, having a great time in our office today, or here at the radio station today. We have Larry Wilson. Larry, you still with us?
I sure am, and enjoying every minute of it.
Oh, we're happy to have you here. Larry's sharing with us the lifestyle of the Snowbird. You know, what it's like to be a snowbird. And if there's any of you out there that have any questions about, equipment, plans, anything that might be a benefit, please don't hesitate to call here at the station, 541-388-1110. We're always open. You, our listeners, are a big part of our show, so we really appreciate any of your input and any of the questions that you may have. So in the first segment there, as we chatted with Larry, he was talking glowingly about our town and what a treat it is for him to come back. He's currently spending about half of the year here and half of the year down in the desert. But a couple of the questions that I wanted to ask was the convenience and that sense of isolation, if you will, of being on the road like that. I would think that having some form of services and transportation and those sort of items would be important to you when you were there. And Larry hit lightly on the medical services in the VA, and I believe, Larry, you felt that that's a key component in you feeling comfortable about vacationing in the Bend area?
Well, as we get a little older in life, you find that things change for you, and one of the things that I've found is that the medical part of it seems to be playing a little bit more into my life. So having all of these grade A doctors and hospital in the area is really important to me. As long as I'm here, so that I know that I'm going to be able to have proper service when I come up to someplace other than where I've been before. Like in Phoenix and that kind of area, you've got a large population and medical facilities to draw from. So I was kind of concerned that when you come up here to Bend that you might have some issues, but I have found exactly the opposite. These doctors here are absolutely fantastic. They're very people orientated, and the medical facilities, the operations, everything in this area is perfect for a person that likes to travel.
Well, that's great. And we've got a good and reasonable response time. So, heaven forbid you were in a situation where you had an event or whatever, you would be able to get not only to the facility to receive service, but you would have response from our medical service to be able to get you there, which is a great portion of it. One of the things that I had to sit here with a smile on my face is Larry was sharing with us how great our roadways are and all of that. And of course, we're currently at a time where we're receiving an awful lot of press telling us how our roads are in deplorable condition and have potholes and all of that. So I'm certain that it's all in the beholder. We could always use our roadways to be in good condition, but tying into that, if I could, Larry, in a transportation mode, when you're living in a motorhome or a fifth wheel or something like that, I would think that having some form of transportation when you get to your destination, wherever you're going to be, would be a very key component as well.
Oh, absolutely. If you have a Class A motorhome or a Class B or C motorhome, it's nice to have an extra vehicle along with you. I travel personally with a fifth wheel, so I've got my Ford pickup, but I've also traveled with my bicycle. So I find that I'm able to get just about anywhere in town here on my bike, which gives me exercise, and I really enjoy riding around town and enjoying meeting people and that kind of situations.
Well, there's three things here in Bend that we seem to be getting famous for, and one of them right at the top of the list is bicycles, and right behind that, or maybe even ahead of it, might be the beer, and then dogs. I don't imagine you travel with a dog.
No, I travel by myself. I don't have any pets at this particular time.
Well, that's great, and Larry, we really appreciate you visiting with us today, because we realize that there's a big number of people that move to the area to be close to their family members that are at or near retirement age, that give some consideration to wanting to be in this area, but maybe the winters might seem a little long or a little cold, and they might be exploring the possibilities of that lifestyle.
Well, the thing is about that lifestyle is that it enables you to do what you want when you want to. Personally, I find that I like to do a lot of fishing, and around here there's everything from steelhead to bull trout, lake trout, rainbows, bass. And if you're a hunter and you like to hunt around here, we have elk and deer. As a matter of fact, as Freddie was mentioning earlier, you got to be kind of careful around town here, because you're liable to have a deer walking across the street in a residential area. I think most of them are hand-fed.
You take it easy on old Buck Norris. We loved him a lot.
Yeah, Buck was a big old boy. I saw him up at the top of Auberry Butte one time, and he just stood there and looked at me, and I looked at him, and I'm thinking, that's Boone and Crockett.
He's a big boy. He was a big boy. And so you're going to give us a fishing tip? Where's one of the best lakes here to fish?
Actually, I prefer anywhere up on the Century Drive, the high lakes myself. They seem to be not that crowded up there, and the fishing is absolutely excellent for lake trout also up at Cultus Lake. There's several lakes up there that I just love to fish, but you can find just about any kind of species of fish that you want to fish for up there.
So you're a little bit more of a lake fisherman than a river fisher?
Yes, having knee issues these days, I don't do too much river fishing unless it's drift fishing, that type of situation, which we do quite a bit of actually on the Deschutes, the lower part of the Deschutes here. And then there's the John Day River. There's a lot of places to fish and to really enjoy the water around here.
Well, Larry, we really appreciate you being in today and shedding some light on what it means to live the Snowbird lifestyle. We hear it all the time, and it's sort of an elusive beast that we don't really get the opportunity to sit down and talk to people about their individual needs and how they could plan their life to accommodate that. And you find that having your home on wheels, I guess, is much more flexible than having a static piece of real estate, piece of property, or a condo or something in the area.
I don't like to spend a lot of time in yard work anymore, so I find that this works out real well for me.
Well, that's right. You probably don't have to take a yard with you from place to place, do you?
No, that seems to be a major thing with me. The other thing I've noticed about Central Oregon is there's always something to do around here, whether or not it's go to a minor league Bend Elks game or...
Bend Elks opened yesterday.
And... if you're really looking for something to do, you don't have to look too far to find it here in Bend, Oregon.
Well, thank you for that. I think that one of the things that some of us here in Bend are struggling with, Larry, is the fact that our community is continuing to grow, and there seems to be continued outreach, and more people come. And then as I mentioned at the top of the show, when we get so many visitors a year, there's a number of them that sort of look around while they're here and sort of realize the same thing that you realize, that brings you back, that, wow, this is a pretty nice place. I wouldn't mind to be here. But
even being at the age that I am right now, Mount Bachelor is probably one of the best ski areas in the West. I've skied most everything from about Denver west, and I'll tell you, Bend has probably the best intermediate to expert mountain and Mount Bachelor. And generally the ski team, usually U.S. ski teams, practices here. We're one of the ski areas that last the longest. And I have several friends of my age that are still skiing and really enjoying it.
Well, yeah, I think they call you the Over the Hill Gang, don't you?
Yes, we are.
And once again, for those of us that live here, it's really nice to get a different perspective. And I really want to thank you so much, Larry, for coming in and sharing some of your insights. And Larry will continue to be here with us today. So if through the rest of the show, if you
uptick in mood when that happens.
feel like making a contact. Uh-oh. I apparently inadvertently touched something, but I think I'm still doing all right, and I'm still coming across live, so I'm going to go with it. Many of you know, and many of you encourage me to make mistakes, which I've been known to make a few. So I play with this big mixing board, and sometimes it gets away from me just a little bit. Wanted to thank you very much for tuning in today. Again, you're talking to Talk Radio, 541-388-1110. Feel free to contact us anytime, and we'll go to break.
Fred Johnson, brought to you by the Central Oregon Association of Realtors. Only on FM News 100.1 and 1110 KBND. You're listening to Talk Real Estate with Fred Johnson, brought to you by Duke Warner Realty. Only on FM News 100.1 and 1110 KBND.
Howdy, Central Oregon. Welcome back to Talk Real Estate with Fred Johnson. We're here today, talking with Larry Wilson. Larry Wilson was shedding a little bit of light for us, on the snowboard lifestyle. But more importantly, and one of the things that I was hopeful to get across with bringing Larry in was that, as we live in our town and we're looking at a number of issues, and we went through those at the top of the hour, that are confronting our city, one of the things that is sort of not accounted for is that influx of the population that comes in the form of snowbirds, whether they're coming up to their condo, whether they're coming in an RV, motorhome, however they're coming into the area, they're not accounted for either by the census and the population. They're not accounted for by the activities as a result of concerts or activities that we have in town, car shows, gun shows, all of those sort of things. And when it says at the city limit sign that we have 80,000 folks here, it's very, very realistic as we go into the summer months to have those days where there may be upwards of 110, 120, 130,000 people in town that swells during the summer months. And those are some of the times that we get a little frustrated with our roadways, but then we need to keep in mind that it's really a temporary situation, and it isn't at that level all the time, year round. And I just really want to thank Larry. And if anybody has a call or a question to direct to Larry, please don't hesitate to call in 541-388-1110. You're here at Talk Real Estate on KBND and FM News 100. I was interviewed this last Thursday morning, and I received a couple of emails and questions about the points that I was making, because primarily, as I've said numerous times in recent weeks, this is a wonderful time if you're on the fence, if you're giving some consideration to purchasing a home. There's a number of reasons why this could be a very, very good time. And I know that sounds like the standard refrain from a typical broker, but we're at a time where we have, historically low interest rates. They're starting to feel a little bit of upward pressure. We're also at a time where, which I found very, 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 very interesting, which is we're at a time where nationwide, this isn't just specific to Bend, but nationwide, rental rates are appreciating at a more rapid rate than home values. So what that means is that it's becoming increasingly more expensive to rent than it is to buy. And, one of the questions that apparently I had given the statistic that came out in CNN News, it was based out of St. Louis, and one of the statistics that I gave earlier in the week was that home ownership is about 15.3% of your income, where renting can go as high as 30% of your monthly income. And someone asked me to clarify that a little bit. And basically what I was getting at is that when you're purchasing a home, you have an interest deduction. And so if you will, you're paying rent with after-tax money, and you're paying your home payment with pre-tax money. So the kind of the easy way to break that out, and this is obviously in real lay terms, let's say that you have a situation where you're paying $1,000 a month rent. Well, if you're paying $1,000 a month rent and you're in the 30% tax bracket, that means that you actually have to earn $1,300 to have the $1,000 to pay in rent. Where if you're paying a $1,300 a month house payment, you're going to get the tax differential that's going to affect that, which is actually going to bring you back closer. So you could actually make a larger house payment than a rental payment and actually be money ahead at the end of the year. So that's how they figure that spread. It wasn't really dollar for dollar, but it was really on the backside of using pre-tax money as opposed to after-tax money. And we're seeing that spread really quite large. In another article that was by CNN Money, it said that in Honolulu, last year, the cost of owning versus renting was to the negative by 10%, and then this year it's gone to 16%. In San Francisco, last year, in 2014, it was at 17%, and this year it's moved to 24%. And in Seattle hasn't had quite the dramatic experience. It was expensive last year at 23% to 26% this year. That means that it's 26% more expensive to rent a property than it is to own a property by these national statistics. And I think that, when we get out there and we start to take a look at it, I had a class this last week, and we had 5 different lenders come in and talk to us about some of the different programs, some of the different grant programs, some of the different first-time homeowners programs. Remarkably, there's a couple of misnomers that I would like to share with you, and I would like you to think about a little bit, so that maybe you may consider going and talking to a mortgage professional about some of these issues, because we lived through a time that if you went through a bankruptcy or a foreclosure, that we think that it's going to take us 7 years to mend the damage that was done before we would be able to go to a lender and be able to borrow some money. When in fact, 3 years can get you there. Another thing that's kind of interesting also on the 3-year plan is the first-time homeowners program. Well, the first-time homeowners program doesn't necessarily mean that you need to be a first-time homeowner in your entire life. It just means that you can't have owned your property for the last 3 years. So let's say, for discussion's sake, that 4 years ago you had a short sale on your property, you short sold your property, your credit's good, you're coming forward. There's a very good possibility that if you've maintained your employment and maintained your credit reference, that you can go and you can borrow money, and maybe sitting at home right now thinking that that's not necessarily the case. And when you get into some of these different programs, there's the USDA program, which works for rural properties. It doesn't necessarily lock you into needing to buy something in town. The Oregon bond. There's this grant program that's called the NHF Platinum program, that actually it's kind of predicated on your credit rating. And a lot of these programs don't necessarily mean that you need to be ultra low income. They kind of max out around the $70,000 a year household income. And so again, what I would recommend is, as we still see interest rates that are below 4, we're seeing a little bit of upward pressure on our property values. The way to maybe save a little bit of money, stabilize your housing expenses, might be to get out there and talk to a mortgage professional, see if there's a property out there that suits you and your family's needs, and go talk to somebody, because again, you may be thinking that you're not mortgageable when in fact you certainly are. And there's the VA programs, and I won't go into that in any great depth, but there's a state VA program and also a federal VA program. The federal VA program allows for 100% financing, and then there's even deductions, Larry, for disabled vets when they participate in that program. And it works on fourplexes. One of the things with some of these programs too, that if you're a budding investor and you want to buy a little duplex or a fourplex, you can also qualify for one of these high loan to value loans with very small down and get started on your financial security for a later date.
My first home was a federal VA home, and I found it worked great for me.
It worked well. You had to put very little down,
and worked hard on the property over the years, and ended up selling it for quite a profit here in town when I moved out to hit the road.
Oh, good for you. Good for you. Well, see, I think that the primary point that I'm trying to make today is that, it's a great time. I think that with the continued growth and what's going on, we're going to continue to have a bit of a catch-up game with our housing and our housing shortage, whatever we would like to call it. I think that with the low interest rates and some of these new programs that are coming into town, that some of these properties are available to people that are really sitting at home not thinking that they can. And the unfortunate thing about paying these high rents is that it makes it harder to save your down payment money and get yourself in a position to where you can buy a property. So I want to thank you all very much for tuning in today to Talk Radio, Talk Real Estate. We enjoy having you. You're a big component of the success of this show. Having our sponsors, having the Central Oregon Board of Realtors, having Evergreen Mortgage, having Duke Warner Realty, having Abajay, having people support our show, that's what keeps us on the air. But it's you, the listener, that by participating and by calling in, we can have some open discussion and dialogue. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we look forward to talking with you next week.